Welcome back, my YouTube family. Today we're going to be talking about Psych Ward Stories Part 2. So when I first got to the Psych Ward, I told you it wasn't what I expected. So originally I was not trying to talk to anybody, especially other patients, because I felt I didn't belong there, but then I kind of realized they felt the same way, and I actually realized that we had a lot of similarities within the issues that we were having. So once I kind of realized this, I kind of made friends with some of the patients, but believe me, we were completely lost mentally. Like, there was one scenario where I tried to share food with this one guy, and then he tried to offer me some of his food, which was a different food. So he was trying to basically say that I needed to have some of his food in order for him to have some of mine. So there were a lot of trust issues there. And when I was in the psych ward, I was constantly working out, and I was doing a lot of weird calisthenic exercises as well. So the nurses were very confused. So I did a lot of push-ups, like constantly, all through the day, all through the night. I did dips using 2 weighted chairs that they had there. And I also did things like handstands in my room, which was on camera. And I also did something called the crab walk, which is a calisthenics exercise that looks very weird, especially when you're doing it up and down the hallways. So yeah, the nurses actually ended up bringing up this issue as a concern of theirs, which I told them was not a problem. And luckily my girlfriend spoke to them as well and told them that I'm like that all the time. I work out a lot. So luckily they ended up brushing it off and allowing me to basically work out everywhere, which I kept doing. There was one very bad night I had there where I was blacking out a lot, so I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. But what I do remember from it is that I walked up to the glass that the nurse was stationed behind, and I told him that it's okay, God will save me from here, and you know, that everything would be okay. And then he started asking me kind of antagonizing questions that felt a little bit patronizing. He asked me if I could hear God in my head, like, what does God tell you? Do you hear God in your head? And then I completely crashed out, so I punched the window and I called him a few names, and I was basically trying to be let into this other area where a lot of the patients were, because I was just me and this other guy in this kind of lockdown unit. And obviously that was not the right approach to take, so they ended up bringing security in to deal with me. And the security guards quickly realized that I wasn't intimidated at all, so they eventually made the decision that they were going to give me an injection. So if I remember correctly, I'm not sure how accurate this was, but I'm pretty sure they brought in a police officer, because police officers hang out in the downstairs of the hospital a lot. And obviously I'm going to comply with a police officer, but anyways, they ended up dragging me back to my room, and they actually stuck me with a needle in the back of my shoulder, which was Haldol, and I didn't think that it was gonna kick in. I thought that I could fight it off, so I did about 30 push-ups in there before it was like, uh-oh, like I'm gonna pass out. So I went into bed and I slept for like an entire day. Another thing about the psych ward is that there was a lot of crying. I'm not gonna lie to you guys about that. And there was a lot of crying on my part and also a few of the other patients who were there. We were obviously in states where we couldn't control our emotions, and I'm sure I was in a depressive state at times. So that was something that became very normal around there. So obviously I tried to help out the other patients as much as I could as well, especially once I started to kind of gain control of my mind again. I did whatever I could for the other patients to make them feel better. Another thing about the psych ward is that food was very scarce. So in my 3-week visit there, I actually lost a total of about 25 pounds, maybe a little bit more, because I was not getting enough food. There was actually one time I woke up kind of late in the day and I asked for some food, and the nurse brought me a small little apple, which I then threw on the floor because, like, what's that gonna do for me? But yeah, like I said in episode 1, the nurses were not helpful. They would not listen to me. They weren't answering any of my questions. And a lot of the time they would ignore me, they would laugh at me, and just kind of was all a big joke to them, unfortunately. But yeah, that's a few stories for this episode, guys. I'm glad that I made it out okay. I remember getting out and finally tasting freedom again. It was an amazing feeling. So yeah, guys, I hope that was enough for this video. I didn't want to say too much in this one, so make sure you stay tuned for some more great stories and great content from things that I experienced with my mental health. And remember to stay strong, guys, because you're never alone in what you're suffering with. There's always someone else in the world, probably many people who are having the same experience as you. So try to make sure to remember that always. Thanks again for watching my video. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do that, and I'll be back soon with more great content.